Hi, I'm Brenda EM. Welcome to my still unfinished reverberant shop. Today we'll be looking at this Noctua NH-C14S, a cooler, and we'll be doing an unboxing and installation and take a good look at it. I ordered this particular unit from Amazon and it was shipped with no outer box and has some damage to the box here. Apparently it was shipped from Noctua itself in Kentucky. And well, I'm a little worried about this and I wish they had put an outer box. Also, it's left at my doorstep without no signature required. And so let's see what happens. And there's not even any outer tape to make me feel good that it was sealed ever. And so I'll just open up the lid and hope for the best. And we can see that the box damage goes in through here. And I do like that it's cardboard boxes. And we've got a cardboard box here. And I guess this is an accessory box. And roll this guy over here. And set the box down. We have another piece of cardboard. And I do like that most of this seems to be cardboard. And so as far as recyclability, I like that. And we do have one plastic thing here, apparently. I'm trying to figure the best way to get this out of here. Like that. That works for me. So far, I'm optimistic that the heatsink unit wasn't damaged in spite of the damage on the outside of the box. And you can see this is just cardboard, which can be recycled. As you can see, the outer accessory box took a little damage. Let's just hope everything's okay. And what do we get? So it looks like we have different instruction manuals for 2 Intel and 1 AMD processor. I like that the instructions are individualized for the different processors. And we'll keep the AMD one out. And we have a bunch of spacers and screws. We have nickel and or chrome plated fasteners. These are these fasteners accept both Phillips or flat screws. We have little mounting brackets here. And these are pressed in little steel things, and they have captive posts, little post screws and stuff, and these are pressed in. These also appear to be nickel plated and or chrome plated. There's a little low noise adapter here, which is probably just a resistor in here somewhere. It feels like a little resistor in there somewhere. And we have 2 clips apparently to hold the fan on. We'll probably need those. We have a Noctua logo, brown. We can take a look at this. So this will fit in with the rest of your brown computer equipment, and I don't mind. I think it's kind of quirky and fun, but you can see the logo is actually pretty well made, and it's got genuine 3M adhesive on the back, and so it's actually well made. I'm surprised how well this logo is made. It was made like at a badge company or something like that. We have some kind of thermal paste. I'm not sure what kind yet. It's so hopefully it'll be decent quality. I'm probably going to use this. We have a little screwdriver thing, and so up here it's either a Phillips or GIC. I'm not sure which. And apparently this is for installing the heatsink down on top of the processor. And I'm going to start already. I wish they had used Torx instead, because that way you wouldn't have to apply pressure as well as torque to hold it down to get it to screw. So that's interesting. We have more of these little posts. So we've got 2 sets here, like so, small and large. And I don't think I'll be using those. We have another cardboard thing. We have a bag with more nickel and or chrome plate hardware, some plastic spacers. The hardware all looks good on this. I like that this is knurled because that might help in installation. And we have another support bracket for Intel in this case. And seems fairly well made. So, which brings us to the heatsink and cooler itself. And there's a little cardboard cozy for it. Let's open that up and see if we can get this out of here. And I like the cardboard. I like that it's recyclable. The heat sink is not as big as it appears in the a lot of the pictures I've seen. It's actually a little smaller than that, so it seems manageable. It's got several heat pipes, and there's actually these little channels cut through the fins so you can attach it. It came out of the factory apparently with a fan attached to the bottom. The mounting brackets seem to hold up pretty well. I've got a portable computer that this installation is going on, and this seems like it's going to be robust enough to handle the shock. You have little captive spring clips here for holding down the heatsink assembly. The heat pipes themselves are kind of thin. And let's look at the surface. So the surface is plated, either nickel and or chrome. It looks like it was lathe turned, and so it should be fairly flat. It's looking down the edge of it, it's fine enough to reflect light, so it should be fairly flat. Looks like it was stamped or cast to a certain thickness and then machined off here. There's also 4 little screws here, and those hold on these steel retention clips, so those should be removable too. The fins themselves seem pretty fine. And so it looks like it's a well-made unit. So far I'm pleased with it. They have the little logo embossed in the last little fin, but not all of them, so that seems reasonable. The heatsink is about 145 millimeters wide this way, and that's about 5 5/8 in US customary units. Heatsink's about 170 millimeters, and that's about 6 3/4 in US customary units. With the fan mounted on the bottom, the total height is about 115 millimeters, and that's about 4.5 inches. Without the connector, the fan pigtail is about 180 millimeters, and that's about 7 1/8 inches in US customary units. So this is, I just started Cinebench. It's not running yet, so this is kind of a high to idle, and let's run it twice or 3 times. This will be CPU multi-core. This is the second run of Cinebench, and I'm using Cinebench 15 for this test still. I'm not convinced the new one really presses the processor any harder, and so that's just the second score, and I'm getting 3163 on this run. Do it again. And my later run actually dropped a few points, not much. It went from 3146 to 3122. And we're still at no higher than 67 degrees centigrade. So let's shut it down, take off the other heatsink, and see what we got. I've read some scary things about the retention of AMD's heatsink compound. Hopefully that's not true. It's the original cooler cable. I'm touching some metal in the cabinet too as I'm going along. And there's a bail here. I'm going to try to hold it by the heatsink and release the bail. I tried to use this nice precision screwdriver to release the clip from the side, but it turns out that a really fat bladed screwdriver seems to like it's going to work good on for this, and I'm just trying to gently pop this side off like so, and now it should kind of roll like this. It seemed like the compound worked. It seemed like the original heatsink was reasonably flat, but it looks like there's like a trough between each heat pipe. I'm unconvinced that there isn't a wasted opportunity here as far as being able to make more contact. I have isopropyl alcohol, which probably should never be brought over to the motherboard, especially if it's plugged in, which this one isn't. And so I'm just going to clean the processor off. And I'm going to be pretty careful with it. Some of the compound's squirmed over the side, and I'm trying to get that off. It may or may not be electrically conductive as well as heat conductive, so I might as well not let it land on the motherboard. Because this is an AM4 motherboard, the manual specifies I should be using the gray spacers instead of the white. So obviously if you have a different motherboard, you'd use different spacers too. The manual states that I should take out these these stock mounting parts, and I'm only going to do one side so the thing doesn't drop down. And I, as I'm going along, I have to ask myself, am I putting too much pressure on the motherboard while I'm doing it? So I've got a fairly large well-fitting screwdriver, meaning that I can put it in here, and there's very little play in there. And I'm actually going to hold this motherboard up while I'm removing the screw. And the thing is not to let the screw driver slip at all. And you want to be careful. If there's any doubt, put some, maybe, I don't know if you should put tape here or something, but you really have to be careful. If you knock off any of these parts, this is not going to work. And you also don't want to jostle the processor at all. Then according to the manual, we're supposed to fit these little gray things like this. I think it comes with two different sizes of these plates. Apparently it's calling for the ones that begin with AM to be installed rather than the ones with IM to be installed. So there's two different bolt spacing on these plates, and it's recommending for AM4 to actually use the number 4 position, which are the two outer ones. Then the plate goes on top with the curved section facing in, and if memory serves me correctly, we should use the number 4 locations. It's one of those things, take your time while you're doing this stuff. If this doesn't work out, this would be an expensive mistake. Often when doing stuff, I use these kinds of screwdrivers, so I only have to bring one screwdriver with me. And often I pull them out so I can be more dainty with it, like so. But still, you have to be careful not to poke yourself with it. If there's any questions, you can pull out this part. Now you have a screwdriver that could drive a fairly stout screw very gently until you get it to where you want it. And I'm probably gonna do the other side, and then I'll torque all four of these up. They gave you a little tube of heatsink compound. I pulled the label off, and this you don't use much at a time, and this might be maybe 3 applications. The manual says we should put about roughly a 4 to 5 millimeter little daub in there. So let's do that, and that should do it. This might have a fingerprint or 2 on it, and I'm not terribly worried about that. I'm just worried about dust, because dust will keep it from contacting. I'm actually sliding down these things to get it situated. So they have little threaded fasteners that face up going this way, and they're not quite long enough. So in other words, you have to really push down on the screws while you're lining it up. I wish the pins were a little bit longer, and the thing that went over it was was worked out to be, compatible. And so what happens was that it's hard to get started, and necessarily so. And I don't like the Phillips screws, or they might be JIC, I don't know. But I wish the screws were Torx screws instead. And I wish the pins were longer. So also on this motherboard, I started this one carefully first, and then I did this one knowing that I would put more pressure on this side. And this is where you run into a situation where this side of the part of the motherboard isn't really supported that well in with this particular motherboard. So I'm going to tighten them up now. And we don't really know how tight they should be as far as, Newton meters or foot-pounds. But I'll try to do them evenly. I'm actually sliding from the back here. I don't know if they were supposed to go to a seat. Yeah, they're seating. So that's one good thing about the system, is that it relies on spring pressure instead of user torque guesses. So I'm just going to tighten up until it grounds out, like so. It's ground out. I don't need to be any firmer than that. Test this one, make sure this one's okay. That's tight. Take one more look around here to make sure I didn't pinch anything. And I'm going to have to move these cables, so that's okay. And now I'm going to mount the fan. Like I said, I wish the fins went this way, because that will help the air get out of the case better. And so that's a thing. I used a pair of pliers to pull one of the clips off, and then I was able to remove the other clip. So I'm going to feed this through. And fortunately, it clears my RAM. Pliers, which are rusty because the humidity here is so great. I'm worried about getting my tools in here, to tell you the truth. So it's going to be a big WD-40 situation. Actually, it doesn't seem like it wants to go any further back, so that's it. There's one clip. And the clips seem to work okay, so I'm not too worried about the clips. And they do give you 2 extra ones to so if you want to mount 2 fans on this. And I still wish there were more cooler options for this kind of case arrangement. I'm going to use a pair of needle nose pliers to hook up the fan for the cooler. Hopefully in the right spot. And I just got it situated over, and then I used the nose of it just to slide it down. And I don't want to hold on to it while I push it on, because that puts more stress on the pins. None of my cables are touching the cooler. The lever arm is not too bad. I do have clearance over the RAM. It's not touching anything. I'm taking one last look to make sure it's not touching any heat spreaders or anything. So that looks good. Put in the video card again. So Windows is up and running. I think most of the delayed drivers and everything are already loaded. The computer I don't think has ever been this quiet. I think it's as quiet as my other one is right now. Actually, this part of the heatsink is actually cool. It's actually interesting. I've got a little one of these little thermometers. Let's see what we're doing. Let's see what we have here. Bear in mind these are metallic surfaces and they're not good for doing heat. But we could do a comparative thing. So this corner of it seems to be 18.7 so far. This corner is 18.7 as well. This corner is 15.7 or 15.4 now. And this side is 15.5. So you can see there's a heat gradient going this way. We can actually measure a couple of fins. We're actually 19, 18, 18, 18. And then we're like at 16.1 on this side. And I'm trying to get, the angles nice. This is always a problematic thing when you have metallic surfaces. It's pretty chilly in here right now. The case is 14.5 Celsius. So it's 57 degrees in here. And the RAM is 17.5 for one stick. 16.6 on the other stick. Let's run it a couple more times. This case features this little metal guard to support your video card, which is good, but you'll notice that there's a gotcha that this has to be retracted. But I might be able to put something in here to further isolate this, because this does put a little pressure on there.